In this class, we're going to be introducing the elephant stomp. This is something that we added into the student programme many years ago with quite dramatic results. We found that with only a little training and a relatively basic understanding of this new concept, that everybody started to look and move very different. The technique itself is nothing new. A 2-year-old child will stamp on your foot with no training at all. Hence it's a very instinctive movement and belongs to no style. Although unfortunately, there are those who are still extremely deluded and think that specific weapons belong to their art. So once again we concern ourselves with the development of instinctive reactions. Only our quest is to extract a greater ability from them. By making 4 simple reference points on the ground for us to attack, we can then try to develop our sense of placement by feeling where we are in relation to a thing. This is like any kind of distance training. It's a physical sensation and feeling that will develop with us in time. This simple exercise will also make sure that we continue to use our windows properly, as we must be constantly observing a 360-degree radius. The footwork used in this exercise is just a basic box shape: forward, backward, left, right, plus a simple turn. The foot stomp has some extremely radical applications. This is because when used in combination with other forms of attack, it takes on the form of a ghost. We will talk about the ghost a little more later in the programme. So the real skill of the foot stomp is in the blending, and this is the part that eludes most people. Connecting all of our mechanics and weapons takes a great deal of training, so don't forget, even when we've nailed the technique in isolation, this is only the beginning, as we now need to develop the application. Now we look at how to attack the 6 doors with a punch. Limb destructions are nothing new. They've been around since the beginning of time, since the birth of prehistoric man in fact, and again have not been born out of any specific art form, as many people are led to believe. Like we just said, all the techniques that people like to think belong to a specific martial art style, in fact, are quite simply the consequence of human instinct. Only specific martial arts favour certain kinds of movements because they just happen to like them. Therefore these movements become synonymous with that particular art form. We also want to develop a little more ability with the elbows in this grade. So we start by learning how to attack the 6 doors in isolation. Once with this part down, we just start connecting the dots as it were. But one thing is for sure, this simple development will really improve the way in which we use the elbow in order to attack and destroy the different parts of the body. The elbow developments in the KFM have all come about as a direct consequence of experience. We found that in the middle of total chaos, it was difficult to draw the hands away from the head. Hence we found that the elbow possessed simple yet hidden applications that had not been exploited to the full. So our investigation began many years ago and continues to this very day. Here we can see Big Graham isolating and showing the 5 windows from standing and kneeling. Graham is showing this one for you very slow. This is to make sure that you get the mechanics right for windows 4 and 5, as they require a little more body movement than the first 3 windows. Also, when we travel through the different levels, we need to make sure we carry the same ability with us and not see our work deteriorating just because we're not standing. The windows use exactly the same mechanical structure no matter where you are, so once you have the mechanics nailed, they will travel with you everywhere. The development of the windows was one of the first evolutions of the pensador. It's how we learned to develop the observation whilst under attack. Remember how we said the pensador is a consequence of instinctive reaction? What we then went on to do was learn how to extract and develop a greater ability with what the body would do automatically. Now we bring our training partner in to help us develop the stomp. Graham just follows the basic box process, forwards, backwards, left and right. And Ruben changes reference, so that Graham has to follow him round. It's a simple development, but an essential one, as it teaches us to coordinate the feet with the top end of the body whilst attacking at the same time. Only for training purposes, we're showing it in isolation here. I could talk a lot about how the different styles lay claim to specific techniques, like the foot stomp for example, but I just get all frustrated and fall out myself, so I won't bother. Martial arts that really think they invented certain styles of attack are narrow-minded to say the least. They clearly have no understanding about the greatest predator of all time, the human. Observe a young child. They will teach us all we need to know about dirty fighting, and that's because it's in their blood, not from a martial art. They don't need any training in order to spit in your face, try to gouge your eyes out, take a bite out of your face, stick the fingers in your mouth and fish hook you, grab you by the testicles, kick you in the shins and finally stomp on your foot. The ironic part is that for them it's all a game. Or is it? In these next shots we see Graham and Ruben putting the stomp into the process that we've been following and finishing with a simple punch and elbow. We can train at whatever tempo we feel is keeping us in the learning zone. If we create too much stress at this stage, we simply don't develop our ability properly. We can keep all the real stress for the two-man predator, because this is where we test ourselves a little more. Simple observation. There are many different ways to connect to the opponent's foot, but the three major sectors are directly on it, inside reference of the ankle, or the outside reference of the ankle. As always, when we move on to training with one opponent, the objective is to lift the intensity a little. We're making sure that we keep hold of the work at hand and not get too carried away, otherwise we just don't catch the ability. Going at it, as they say, is one thing, but we need and want the ability. So we need to have plenty of attitude and good energy, but at the same time focus on the specific work we're developing. Clearly we need to be extremely careful when training the foot stomp, because although it's very simple and kind of obvious, its intention is to destroy the foot and break the ankle. And because we're in motion and the opponent is also travelling, if we tag the ankle with good timing, then it's very likely that the ankle will receive a damage. Hence great attention and caution need to be applied whilst training this. Now depending on our footwear, we can either decide to use the foot as a direct reference point, which we actually like to do, as we create the habit of actually stomping on the foot, or fall slightly short, so as not to physically touch the foot. You decide. But if you choose to make contact with the foot, be very careful, as it really doesn't take that much to break it. So here we are again, the last part of the class, the two-man predator. Training the foot stomp in this kind of environment is not easy. We all need to pay great attention. One, so as not to injure anybody, and secondly, so as not to receive an injury ourselves. For this reason, all participants need to be very clear about the process. You must set your own guidelines as to how you're going to train this, and in reality, most of it's just plain old common sense. The hard part is finding and applying the timing element, as when we're being ragged around, we can't always have the footing that we want. Therefore we need to adapt to this very unstable and problematic environment that makes applying even the simplest of things very hard, including the foot stomp. Catching this basic technique is one thing, but as soon as we have some kind of ability with it, we then need to study what else it has to offer, and the different ways in which we can apply it. As always, there's an awful lot more to a simple technique than first seems apparent. This is where our work really starts. Learning the thing in the beginning is the easy bit, but finding out how it all fits together and how it really works, well, that's a whole new universe. But that's our job, to explore all and everything. What will we find? Well, we just don't know, but again, that's why we look. Only if we go in search of treasure will we ever find it. Because if you wait for somebody to knock at the door and give it to you, well, you'll be waiting for all eternity. So we must first learn a thing, but then immediately start studying all the hows and whys, whilst at the same time not getting lost or confused with where we are and what we're supposed to be doing. Again, these insert shots are just so you can see the actual foot stomp a little clearer. We have a simple thing that we always say, and that is, if you can touch it, you can destroy it. And if we can really absorb this simple concept, then it really will help us to see things that possibly pass others by. Until next week, have fun.